What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Endwalker Dungeon Guide. Today we are going to be covering the Dead Ends, going through each boss and explaining to you the mechanics as they happen in real time. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so here we have arrived at the first boss, the Caustic Grebuloff. But did I say that right? Well, nevertheless, let's engage and see what mechanics he throws at us. So the first thing we're going to notice is he does this wind around the platforms. Now, this wind actually is important. It dictates the movement of the circles around the room. So as we can see, the wind is now blowing in this direction in front of me. So it's going to cause these circles to also move in that same direction. So we want to make sure that we find that safe spot, get in there, and watch those circles just move all the way across the platform. We don't have to worry about those anymore once we've gotten there. Now that the wind is gone. This cough up ability that he happens to do is something else that's similar to those circles, but they just follow you around the room. So you want to try to not bait those into your friends and get them all killed. I believe you get about 3 of them that explode. Now these red triangles right here also, you want to stack up for. It will always happen to do this stand under the boss mechanic right after. So that happened a little quick, but basically what happens is the cough up ability is these 3 little circles that will spawn. You're going to want to move away from them, try not to get anybody killed. The red triangles, if you do not stack with them, will cause you to lose control of your character. So here we had a stack up with wind circle. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up here. So stack under him, move away from winds. But those red triangles, if you don't stack with your party, will cause you to lose control of that character. And it will inevitably make you run around the room and you'll miss the stack under the boss mechanic that happens right after. So it's pretty hectic. It can be in some points. But there's not really a whole ton of things to watch for the boss. Like I said, that wind mechanic is something to really note and make sure that you aren't going to get pushed into a circle. More than likely, you'll end up with 1 or 2 vulnerability stacks, which is just not good if you even happen to survive. The other thing to note that a lot of groups do struggle with is that red triangle on your head. A lot of them don't actually know to stack with each other for that. And they just lose control of their character and then get one shot by the boss's AoE that follows up right after. And here we have another cough up mechanic, which means the circles are going to spawn at our feet. They will then follow us for a few more explosions around the room. Try not to get anybody killed. And the first boss died pretty quick there, but that was the first boss. Alright guys, here we have arrived at our second boss of the dungeon, the Peacekeeper. Now, for those of you who play Black Mages, I am deeply sorry for your ley line loss, because this boss has quite a ton of mobility that you're going to need to use. So this first mechanic right here, this red and black circle that he's expanding, will turn into an unsafe lightning zone. You simply just don't want to stand in that, but the reason why he does this is because this next mechanic that he is summoning right here would otherwise cheese it. So these are little beams that are going to spawn out of these little triangles. I'll do a top-down view here for you. You don't really want to be really close to the boss because you could risk getting clipped by 2 of them. But obviously, if he didn't make that middle zone unsafe, then it would just negate the mechanic because you could just stand in there. Now, something else you might have noticed whenever you saw that was I also had a purple circle for spreading around me, which just indicates that you probably don't want to be in the same area that your other teammates are in. And this mechanic here that he's doing called No Future summons a bunch of red missile circles. I took a vulnerability there. See, it just, a couple of the mechanics just line up all together, and you inevitably can just end up taking a nice vulnerability from either the missiles falling or from stacking with your partners there. You take some extra damage. Here we have our red and black circle spawning once again, meaning an unsafe lightning zone. And you know what follows that? Those triangle-shaped missile launchers there. But at the same time, we are also running away from these circles that are spawning around the room. At some point, they do a slight pause, so we could be safe just to stand here for a second. And the explosions were delayed enough to where we can just deal with the laser mechanic and then continue on with the circles. Here is a knockback, which we can use a knockback immunity for. It will be up for every single one of these. If not, you can just get knocked back into one of the safe zones around the room. Once again, he's casting No Future, which is the red missiles around the room. We simply want to try to find the safe spots as best we can. And not try to hit our teammates in the process. There we go. Little hectic, but like I said, if you play a Black Mage, my condolences ahead of time. That is not fun for any of you, I'm sure. Other than that, occasionally, every now and then, you get a little bit of downtime right here, so it's not too terrible. Oh, we have another red and black circle spawning, which means lightning in the middle, followed by the missiles spawning around the room. And, of course, we are still running around in circles away from all of these. But just remember to dodge these laser beams that happen first, and then you will have plenty of time to keep running around the room from these circles. And another knockback, which we had our immunity up for, which I just blew anyway for the hell of it, you know? And here we are at the final boss of the dungeon, guys, Ra-La. So there is actually a few things going on in this fight that may get a little hectic, but the first thing to note is that this boss actually does have a Doom mechanic. Now, this first cast is actually something to take note of if you are a healer, called Warm Glow. That is actually a really heavy AoE for about 50% of your life. Here we have a Tank Buster mechanic on me, which does happen right after that Warm Glow. So tanks, be sure to pop a nice little cooldown to help your healers out for that. This Prance ability that he does, he will actually leap around the room, spawning circles that expand in size. Now, once all 4 of these are spawned and expanded, he will then start to blow them up in the order that he summoned them. So as that first one blew up, we want to simply sprint out of there and then get to a safe spot. Now, I would highly recommend that you save every sprint for that, as sometimes the safe location can be a little bit dicey depending on the order of them spawning. Now here he's leaped to one side of the room, going to cause an unsafe beam across the middle, which will also spawn a set of butterflies. Now these butterflies have arrow indicators under them, letting you know which way they are going to blast a beam. So you simply want to just move to the safe location of that. And another mechanic to take note of here is this one wing that he has that is turning blue. He's going to essentially just slap that half of the room. Now, what makes this something you really need to pay attention to is that later on in the fight, he will spawn the butterfly mechanic, but also do that slap mechanic, making essentially half of those butterflies that were safe, unsafe. There is a bit of a delay, however, so if you are on the wrong side of the butterflies, don't worry too much because the slap will happen about a little bit of a second after that. So here we're having the Prance ability once more. We want to go to that 4th one that he is spawning. Look for where the safe one of the explosions are going to be. Use our sprint ability and run out of those. And here he is, running to one side of the room again, causing that line, which will then spawn butterflies. Now, if you pay attention, this is where that slap is going to take place. Now, he's slapping this half of the room, so technically I could stay here and then move right after that beam. But it was just more safer to go ahead and be right where my party members were, right there. More warm glow AoE mechanics. A second cast of warm glow, so healers take note, that is 2 of them in a row right there. Now there is some time in between, obviously, but if you don't get off enough AoE healing in between those, that could be pretty rough for the party. Tank Buster here. And it looks like one more Prance ability here. So he's going to jump around the room, spawn those big circles again. We want to simply find where that last one is, which looks like it will be right over here. And use our sprints to get to the safe one. And that's pretty much the final boss, guys. Once you've mastered this last set of butterflies, if you make it that far, she is pretty much over. And congratulations, you have beaten the dead ends. And until next time, guys, see you later.